We've got an interview with Skylar, who is someone who's gone through all the phases of Learn to Cloud and has now landed a cloud admin role. He's got a couple of years of experience with help desk. He has an associate degree, and he went from having applied to 100 different roles, hearing nothing, to in a couple of weeks getting 4 offers. And the decision and the role he ends up accepting, it's awesome. It's just awesome to see that he's landed the role that he's wanted to get into. So yeah, let's dive right into this conversation with Skylar. But yeah, thank you for being here. So glad that you left a comment there, and I just happened to be paying attention to the comments right then and there, and it kind of aligned perfectly. But why don't you start with just giving us your name, if you want to share where you're based, and what you currently do, and then we'll reverse
Okay,
engineer from there.
sounds good. So my name's Skyler. I'm based in South New Jersey, not that far away from where you are.
Hmm.
I currently work out of my firm's Delaware office. I work for a global law firm currently right now as the firm's cloud administrator. I just got that job. I'm actually still transitioning into the job.
Hmm.
Monday will be like my first official start day, but I'm going from the position that I'm at in now as a mobile device administrator
Okay.
into the cloud.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. Was that mobile device admin at the same company?
It was at the same company. So
Okay.
I've been with Greenberg Charig, is the name of the law firm. Most people just call it GT. We
Okay.
actually have a New York office too, on Lexington Avenue. I've been there a few times, but
Hmm.
I've been with the firm since July of 2019.
Okay. Few years.
Yeah, a few years. I'm going
Hmm.
on July this year will be my fourth year with the firm, and I started out with the firm as a desktop or desk side support. It's called, I guess, IT user support specialist is the official
Okay.
title, but
Okay.
it was really more so desktop support, and then transitioned into the enterprise mobile device administrator role, long
Okay.
title, and then now the firm's first cloud administrator.
Okay. I got lots of questions there. I love the progression. 2019 till now, so that's about what we're looking at, 4 years or so.
Yep, just about
Um,
four
it's
years.
about 4 years. How did you feel like that went by fast? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, so when I started well, I guess let me go back a few years.
Yeah.
I guess so. Let me go back a few years. I uh, I did not know that I was going to start off in technology, or wanted to be in technology.
Mhm.
I I was, born and raised in a rural area in South New Jersey, surrounded by farmland, and my family owned and operated a tree service at the time, and that's the business that I thought I was going to get into.
Okay.
And that was what was it for me. Like, that's just what I was going to do. I worked with my father every summer. I had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
I was a farmhand on a local dairy farm. I milked cows for a few summers in high school, which was crazy.
Yeah.
I quickly learned that that type of work wasn't what really interested me, and I was, very passionate about technology. My uncle gave me my first computer, which was a Windows 98 Hot Wheels themed computer.
No way.
Yeah, it was insane. It had 32 megabytes of RAM, 3 gigabytes of hard drive space. I had the
Mhm.
matching keyboard and mouse, speakers. Even the CD case was Hot Wheel themed. It came like
Wow.
like a bunch of different games. This was when I was like 10 years old. I could talk about that forever. But so because
Cool.
of him giving me that computer, I started really tinkering with computers.
Mhm.
And then when I got into high school, I had a computer apps teacher that was a mentor for me,
Mhm.
that really kind of opened my mind, or opened my eyes up to the world of technology. And I enrolled in high school, and for 2 years there was a computer apps 1 and 2 course, which basically right out of high school, I became certified as I think it was Microsoft Office Suite specialist or something like that, where I had like
Okay.
Word, Excel,
Yeah.
Access, PowerPoint. I was basically a specialist, or certified to be a specialist with those things, which was pretty cool. So that led me into my first gig as a receptionist for a food innovation plant, which, that's crazy. So right out of high school, that was like my first job,
Right.
as a receptionist. And quickly became the IT guy, I guess there, which wasn't the official title or anything like that. My official title was receptionist, which was crazy. And at the time, I wasn't planning on going to college. This is 2009.
Mhm.
I wasn't planning on going to college. No one in my family had really, in my immediate family, had really gone to college, and that just, I wasn't interested. And my best friend's mom at the time was like, "No, you're going to college. I'm giving here's my laptop. Go find a college. Go enroll. Like, go sign up."
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say forced me, but we always make a joke that because of her is the reason why I decided to
Yeah.
enroll in college. And I was working full time, so I didn't really want to give up the money that it wasn't a lot of
No,
money,
I
but
get
I
it.
didn't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I was making above minimum wage. It was probably somewhere between 13 and 17 bucks an hour, somewhere in there, I think, as a receptionist, which was great at the time.
For like your first gig?
For my
Yeah.
first gig, it was
Yeah, pretty
amazing.
good.
Yeah, I couldn't, I couldn't complain about that. And I enrolled in college. I decided to attend University of Phoenix online.
Mm.
I knew that I was kind of good with computers at the time, and I went for their associates in information technology support, which really focused on customer service. They had a lot of, I don't want to call them leadership courses, but it was a lot of like receptivity courses, how to make people more receptive, how leadership, and just digging really into sociology, how people's mind worked, which was so
Interesting.
interesting. I took religions of the world, and like as an elective, it was crazy. It was a good course. I don't recall a lot of, there was a few, I'd say a few core technology courses. I do remember there being a network fundamentals course, and things like that I went through. But I graduated with that associate's degree in 2012.
Mhm.
And then right then and there, I jumped into a help desk role for a healthcare company. Worked there for a year or so, then moved into a bank, basically a large bank, and was a night shift help desk tech for almost, well over 5 years. I think I was there for
Mhm.
almost 5 years by myself. I was the only help desk guy working overnight. So at this point in time, I had 2 years of experience being a receptionist, and now maybe 6 years of experience being a help desk analyst.
Yeah.
Doing odds and ends, all the help desk stuff. I was the first point of contact for pretty much anything incident management related. Any incidents that went on, I was the only one there.
Yeah.
On the night shift, which was crazy. And I did 4 10s, which working overnight and then doing 10-hour overnight shifts.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But unfortunately, they moved a lot of their IT departments, including help desk, overseas.
Yeah.
So they kind of gave us a warning, a heads up, in March of 2019. And by then, I was like, all right, well, let me get the resume updated. I have
Mhm.
6 or 7 years of experience doing help desk stuff. Let's see what's out there. And fortunately, the law firm, that I'm currently with now, had a position available for the desktop support IT and user support specialist, is the
Yeah.
name of the title. But the job description was very interesting. Just like you said in your framework video, it's all about the job description. And I was very interested in the work that they were doing.
Very cool.
And
Very cool.
I've been there. Like I said, I've been there for a couple of years now, almost 4 years. So it's a long-winded explanation of where I started, and how I am where I am now.
No, I like the journey. I mean, I we have in common that we've got that help desk background, that customer service. Even your role in like as a receptionist, I'm pretty sure it's pretty heavy on customer service type stuff.
Right.
You're still frontline. It perhaps the what you end up doing might be a little different, but you're still sort of like the first contact to something, which I
Yeah.
think is it's very useful. Like just being able to communicate when people are upset and they're upset at you even though it has nothing to do with you, but you can handle
Right.
those situations later on. I'm sure you're already seeing this at in meetings where there's conflict or where you sort of have to speak your voice and in projects or things like that. Like all those skills that you've acquired from previously dealing with people come
Yep.
into play. And it's also why I'm just like a big fan of starting to help this kind of work your way up. um, I would love to know just if I mean if you could just list a couple of things that you did in your help desk role. Is there anything that you saw or that you learned in those roles that you has have now like really helps you either land your cloud admin gig, or during your interviews, or you're even so using now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The biggest thing I think that I've learned from help desk was prioritization, organization skills. I know these sound like the generic basic skills, right? But like
Mhm.
being able to deliver first level support to executive users, like that's stressful. Like being the person that's basically, I called it my bat phone. So like working the night shift by myself,
Yeah.
like executives from the bank at the time could just call that line. They only had that line, and they would call, and I'd have to pick up and answer, and help them however I can. But
Yeah.
ensuring, and ensuring that first level of support for those executive users, I still carry with me today. Like being able to prioritize and manage the incidents that come in, is a great skill. Being able to cultivate a trouble-free environment during the overnight shift, by supporting all those internal, end users, it was just crazy. And again, like I don't, like you said, I don't know how best to explain it, but I don't want to call it trial by fire, right? But like that's what it was. We were just kind of
Absolutely.
thrown into it. I was the only one there, and it was just crazy. And I would handle probably on an average, I mean, and this is nothing compared to some help. I have a lot of friends that work in technology, and
Mhm.
hearing how their call centers are organized and the kind of work that they do. I mean, I was handling maybe 100, 120, 150 calls a week, which is not a lot.
But it's just you.
But that's just me
Yeah.
on the overnights,
Yeah.
4 days a week, which it was a lot. And being that incident manager and being able to triage those incidents as they come in. And I use that to this day. Working in a law firm, attorneys, to them, time is money to them.
Absolutely.
That whole billable side of things, what they're billing their clients for and everything like that. So when there is a tech issue, they're not able to bill their client for that time. So everything, I don't want to say everything is an emergency, but in some aspect it is an emergency for them. That's how they keep their practice alive. That's how they keep their clients happy. And
100%.
that's being able to have that, or gaining that skill in the very beginning during my help desk career, is super important. And I use that day to day, even now, and I'm sure continuing to use that in this cloud admin role that I'm going to be in here shortly.
I I agree with there's also a lot of cloud roles and like SRE DevOps roles that have on-call cycles.
Mhm.
And I mean, I tell people all the time that there's nothing more that will really test you than having to think up a solution at 3 in the morning where you're
Right.
dead tired. And
That is true.
I'm sure it messes with your sleep schedule and all that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But there's like a certain kind of it's just an experience that you really you cannot compare it to like a typical 9 to
Nope.
5 type of schedule type of thing. And yeah, being able to think on your feet. I remember speaking about that thing about time is money for a lot of these executives. I was in a help desk gig, and we used to have just spare laptops that were essentially the same model that the CEO had imaged, kept up to date with all the
Yep.
files and synced across. If something happened and it was something that was going to take more than potentially 10 minutes, just swap them out.
Yep.
Like, hey, Gwen, we need a fresh new laptop. Grab it, make sure it's up to date. Boom, go give it, swap it out. Grab the other one, reimage it, make sure it's working, just like that. So yeah, no matter what you're doing, you could be helping someone else. You got to drop it. So prioritization, being able to know what to do, and it's also like in a help desk scenario, there is so much going on, but I think because you do, it can be very repetitive. It sort of becomes like a second instinct where it's
Right.
like, oh,
It
I know how to
does.
fix this. I know do this. I know how to do
Yep.
that. I know what to say. I know how to go to. And I think being able to identify those patterns is very useful too, because then you sort of become like just your ability to troubleshoot.
Exactly.
Less things become brand new issues, but that also lets you sharpen your skills and things like
Right.
that, which I think is fantastic. I'm curious to know a little bit more about when were you like, I wanna get into cloud, or how did that happen?
Okay, so this is great, and this is why I'm here, right?
Yeah.
So, in 2019, I got this job with the law firm, and then COVID hit shortly after. Right, the
Mhm.
pandemic started. We had to quickly shift. So I was the local tech for both my Philadelphia office and my Wilmington, Delaware office. So I was the local tech for both of those offices. I would split my time between both of those offices. When the pandemic hit, we quickly had to kind of readjust our day to day. I mean, we went from, I don't know, 20, 30 in person meetings to, because of the different conference rooms that we had between both offices,
Hmm.
to quickly switching to a online virtual environment. And at the time, the firm was investigating. We had a solution for virtual meetings called Blue Jeans.
Yeah.
Was the name of the platform, and then that just wasn't supporting what we needed from I guess from just a usage perspective. And then we switched to Zoom, and then there were some rumors about Teams, and we could be migrating to Teams. So I was
Okay.
like, well, I'm the type of person that's like, if something new comes up in technology, I want to be on the cutting edge. I want to learn as much as I
Cool.
can. I want to absorb it as much as I can. And when I heard that we were going to move the teams, I'm like, this is great. Like I'm so excited. So I jumped into it, and I learned as much as I could. I watched videos on it. I did whatever learning I could find, and I was like, oh, there's a certification. Let me jump into that. So
Mhm.
I took the Teams Associate certification, passed that, and I was really excited to have that. I was like, oh, I
It's
got the
awesome.
Teams badge. I'm a
Yeah.
Teams administrator. Was like, no one really cared, right? That wasn't super. Certificates are great.
Hmm.
Certifications are great. They're a great way to validate your knowledge. A
Right.
great way to get you in the door at a company. But I was proud. I hadn't taken a certification since high school.
No, I get it. I get
And
it.
I was super proud, and that really opened my eyes up at the first time. That really opened my eyes up into Azure and Azure Active Directory, and really seeing what Azure had to offer. And that was amazing. I was so excited,
Yeah.
and I jumped into. I was like, "What's next? What can I do after that?" So we currently have a on-premise MDM solution,
Mhm.
and there was, again, around that time, talk about moving into Intune, and during this, I guess, phase of where I was with the firm, the mobile device administrator position became available, and I was like, well, I'm friendly with that team. I kind of know the guy that was there before. I kind of know what he does. I love mobile devices. Not to. I have see. I mean, these are just. I have 4 devices sitting on my desk that I use every day for work, which is crazy, right? Not including the iPads and everything else that I have for testing
Yeah.
purposes and stuff like that. But like, so I love mobile devices. Over here on the wall, I have exploded iPhones that are all framed up, and
Cool.
all broken apart with all the pieces. So I became, or I went through the certification pathway to really learn identity and access management, the endpoint manager, Intune. I wanted to learn more about that, became certified in that. And again, that opened my mind up, or opened my eyes up a little bit more into to the cloud and what Azure had to offer. And that, I'd say, is really what started my journey to the cloud, with Learn to Cloud with you guys, jumping into that. I would say it started for me when I really wanted to get into it, July of last year.
Okay.
So July of last year, that is when I saw that your Learn to Cloud guide.
Hmm.
I jumped into it. Amazing resource.
Thank you.
I feel so lucky because I'm like, wow, this is a free resource. Like, I could just read this. Like, this is amazing. All this crazy, and you guys have developed it so much that, the last year that I've been using it,
Yeah.
and it looks so good now. I love going to the website when
Thank you. I
I almost
appreciate
visit it
that.
every day. Yeah.
Oh,
So kudos to you guys. It's an amazing platform, and I share it with all of my friends whenever they're like, how did you get into this, or what are you doing? And I'm like, well,
yeah.
look, take a look at this guide. It's amazing, right? So I guess in July, that's when I really started diving into it. Now, being in help desk, I didn't have, or even in the desktop support role, help desk and desktop support, I didn't have a lot of exposure to networking
Hmm.
or programming, or DevOps or security. Like, I didn't have a lot of exposure. I was just doing the day-to-day application support,
Yeah.
hardware support that was coming through. I the first time that I really started messing around with enterprise grade servers was when I became, a desktop support technician. My wife is home. Sorry that the dog. I don't know if
No
you can hear him,
worries.
but he's barking.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, so I that was like really the first time I got that experience, and so I didn't have a lot of the stuff that, or the requirements that would would help me become a cloud engineer or any type of in any type of cloud role.
Yeah.
And that guide was great, right? It laid it out. I started from scratch, even though I had the help desk experience.
Yeah.
I took it as if I'm starting from the beginning. Going through each phase one by one, spending the allotted amount of time on it, going through. I attended a free Microsoft learning course for the Azure Fundamentals exam, the AZ 900, right?
Yeah.
I attended that. That was a cram session. They go through that material very quickly.
Oh, like the training days where it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yep, yeah. So
awesome.
they go through
Yeah.
that very quickly, and
Yeah.
I got the voucher to take the exam. So I took the exam. I passed the exam. I was like, okay, cool. I got AZ 900. I'm really excited now. And at this time, our firm was starting to shift their, I guess I don't want to say perspective, but they law firms are very old school, and depending on client restrictions and requirements, they keep a lot of things in their own databases,
Yeah,
in their
on-prem.
own, in their own
Mhm.
servers on prem. So that's great. But that wasn't great for me. I wanted to learn more about the cloud. I wanted
Yeah.
to get into the cloud, right? So I started to see that shift though, that paradigm shift where the firm was like looking or started to investigate other options that are in the cloud, and one of them being Intune. And I jumped all over that.
Yeah.
At that time, I had gotten to the role that I'm in now as an enterprise mobile device administrator. We're migrating into Intune, which is great. I'm super excited about that. And then I continued down the process. I learned networking. I spent some time on networking. As far as projects go, right around that same time, I did the Azure Resume Challenge, which was so cool. I spent a lot of time on that,
How long
more
did it
than
take you?
6 weeks.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
geez, yeah. So I want to say I went back and looked today actually because I figured this would come up.
Yeah.
So I want to say 8 weeks, 8 to 9 weeks it took me
Mhm.
to get through it, and I ran into some challenges.
What was the hardest
Not so
part?
much. The hardest part for me was honestly getting the CI/CD stuff set up, like
Okay.
that. Which was the
Interesting.
last part. That was the
Yeah,
last
yeah, yeah,
part,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that was probably the most challenging for me because I still to this day, when I'm trying to work on projects and trying to think about that and
Mhm.
implement that in my own projects, it's still very challenging for me. I don't think as that as like an end goal, being able
Okay.
to, but I
See what
should
you're
think of
saying.
that, DevOps as an end goal, or be, CI/CD, and it's just like I got to get better at it. But that
I get it.
confused me. That
Totally
confused
get it.
me a lot, and I read the Phoenix Project and the Unicorn Project. Love both of those books, and it kind of
Awesome.
it kind of opened my. They're actually over here on my little bookshelf. I got
Yeah.
I got Linux for Hackers over here.
Nice.
I got a Python book over there. The what is it? Automate the Boring Stuff over
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
So which is, and I bought all those books based off of your recommendations from the guide and everything, and they've taught me a lot. But that was probably the most challenging part of doing the Azure Resume Challenge. But as far as other projects go, I built out my own home network lab now, so I
Perfect.
have a bunch of Ubiquity equipment downstairs in the basement.
Perfect. Yeah.
You can see the little access point
Yes,
up
yeah.
above my head there. So really excited about that, learning all about that threat management and what is it, defense in depth and everything, going through that whole pyramid of things,
Mhm.
which is really cool. But so that, and I guess I did. So let's see. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but so I got the AZ 900 exam, right? My firm at the time wasn't doing a lot of stuff with cloud. There was a lot of talk about different projects.
Mhm.
I went to the next step from there and did get my Azure Administrator Associate certification. Went through that process, learned a lot there. That really, I mean, all the Azure resources. It's amazing how much
Mhm.
stuff is out there, and like really comparing it. Like I have a lot of the network topology from the firm that I am, and seeing how everything is set up with the servers and the DMZ and everything, and
Mhm.
learning about all that, and then being like, how, like in my mind, trying to figure out, okay, so how would I migrate this stuff to cloud infrastructure? Like,
Yeah.
what could I do? How could I come up with ideas that maybe the firm isn't thinking about? Or how can I save the firm money? Like, what are some things that I could do? Just thinking, processing, trying to figure out what I could do.
Yeah.
And after that, I've been in this role for almost 2 years now. And I'd say back in December, I went through most of the phases. I say that I still revisit networking a lot,
Okay.
still confuses the crap out of me. So I revisit the networking phase a lot, go through a lot of the learn there. I feel like the Python, I feel like I've done the Hello World tutorial more than I'd like to admit that I've done.
Okay.
You get stuck in tutorial world there,
Yeah.
sometimes. But jumping through all of that, it was fun. And in December, I started taking things a lot more seriously. That's when I like it clicked in my mind. Like, okay, I have I have the personal experience, right? I
Mhm.
have the knowledge. I have the projects under my belt. I have the help desk experience. I have almost 3 years of experience messing around with Azure Active Directory, app proxies, conditional access policies. A lot of little things here and there. And I made the bold choice of updating my resume and changing that little open to thing in LinkedIn to open to work.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer. Not so much from like I can apply for jobs and I'm going to get hits like crazy. That wasn't the case. I set that and nothing, like crickets, right? So I'd say for about 2 months, I was applying for jobs. I went back and looked today, and I applied for over 100 jobs and didn't hear back from any of them, none of
Wow.
them, which is crazy, right? And I was like, is something wrong with my resume? Like, is something wrong with me? What do I need to do? And just like you outlined in your framework video the other day, like it's super important to tailor your resumes to each position that you're looking at, right?
Mhm.
And coming up with a cover letter and tailoring that cover letter per the company, doing a little bit of recon. So I took it the next step and started seeing the people that were posting these jobs. I started messaging them individually on
Mm.
LinkedIn. I don't know if that's the right process or not, but I was like, let me see if I could just kind of step up and stand out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
See what I can do. And that didn't get any hits either. I didn't get nothing at all. But what I was getting was a lot of junk email from recruiters reaching out to me, a lot of spam email from
Mhm.
recruiters saying, hey, we saw your resume. We have this position available, this help desk role, help desk role. It was just help desk. It was all help desk. I was like, how do I like get to that next level? How do I stop getting recruiters to contact me for help desk
For
stuff
help
now that I
desk?
have yeah, now that I have so many years of experience in help desk? How do I get to that next step? And I was at a loss. I didn't really know what to do.
Mhm.
And I was just like, you know what? Do I give up? Do I just stay where I'm at until the firm has a cloud position available for me? Because I love the firm I work for. I
Mhm.
love the team that I have. I didn't want to leave, but like in my mind, I knew that like the firm was going to grow, but I didn't know if the firm could sustain my growth for what I wanted to do. And I think that's really important to see and
Absolutely.
realize when you're in those positions, what you want to do, and seeing if taking a step back and looking at it from a different perspective and understanding that, yeah, okay, so I got the experience, right? I got the certifications. I followed the framework, and I wasn't getting anywhere. But fortunately, time prevailed. I wish I could say some cool story like, oh, I found this amazing job and I applied and the recruiter called me or the HR person called me, but that wasn't what it was. I just
Mhm.
I just gave it time. So, March came around, and I was getting a ton of recruiter emails in my spam mailbox, but it didn't really seem, again, it was more so help desk roles or
Mhm.
specialist roles, not so much cloud roles. And I thought I had like everything lined up in my LinkedIn. I had my cloud resume hosted. It's still out there on my website. I'm like, this looks great. I'm so excited. I got my shiny badges. Like I'm pumped about it, right? And then I wasn't getting anywhere. But fortunately, and it's just so crazy how it happens and how the world works, right? And I'd say in the end of February, early March, I got a few hits, three in particular. One from another law firm, one from a very large university hospital around where I live, and a consulting firm based out of North Jersey, actually, very close to New York. All for cloud roles. One was a the title was interesting. It was like cloud. It was like, oh, what was it now? For the consulting role, it was like Microsoft 365 Azure Cloud Engineer Specialist. And I was like, that's a
Interesting.
long title.
It's
It was
creative.
crazy, very creative. And when I interviewed with them, I quickly learned that I was like, oh, this is going to be stressful kind of work. I'm going to be
Mhm,
dealing with multiple clients, going to be in multiple different tenants,
mhm.
moving through different things. I would learn a lot. The experience would be amazing. And the money was great. I mean, we're talking, probably 110 to like 125, which, to
Base.
me, base, yeah, to me that was a big jump for me,
Yeah.
because from help desk, starting probably in the low 30s when
Mhm.
I first started out in the help desk, moving up into the 40s range, and then moving in the 50s, and then 65 as a desktop support ish kind of range, and then
Mhm.
between 70 and 80 to do what I was doing, and then now going up that next step, into a cloud role, above 110.
Mhm.
I was it was great.
Yeah.
I was just seeing those roles. So I went through the interview process with all three of those positions. They were very impressed with my resume. They loved that I had the projects under my belt,
It's awesome.
and that I was able to speak to them,
Mhm.
which is super important because, yeah, anyone can go copy and paste,
Yeah.
code
Tutorial.
and yeah, tutorial, and go through videos and say that they did it. But for me, I really went through each step and broke it down and made sure I understood it. And then I have a study journal, again, based off of a recommendation from you and the Learn to Cloud Guide. I have a study journal, and I was able to incorporate notes for every step that I took, making sure that I understood what I was doing, what this Azure function was doing,
Mhm.
and what this the storage account that I was creating, and being able to create the budget billing stuff, and making sure I understood that. And it's actually really cool. I think that's only like 30 cents a month I'm paying to host
Yeah,
my
probably something
my
like
yeah,
that.
which is crazy. It's so cheap. I think the most it's ever been was 34 cents
Mhm.
a month, which is that's amazing to host my website, to advertise myself a little
Mhm.
bit. But so those I went through the interview process with all three of those roles. The help or the law firm that I was interviewing with was more of a system admin role,
Mhm.
but they were in a cloud space more than the current firm that I'm in. So
Okay.
they had a lot more, like their document management system was in the cloud. And they were all pretty much Exchange Online at the time.
Mhm.
So it would have been a lot of cloud exposure, but it seemed like more of a traditional system admin role,
Okay.
which I was fine with. I was excited for. I ended up getting the offer from the law firm at the same time that I also got the offer for the cloud admin role at the university hospital,
Mhm.
and at the same time I got the offer for the consulting firm. So I went from
All
having
offers? You
all
so offers just
offers.
raining in for after
Yeah,
going from
it just nothing.
nothing and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden just everything.
everything. Yeah, everything. And then the crazy, like I haven't even got to like the part where I decided to stay with the firm that I'm with.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
haven't even got to that yet.
yeah.
So and I think there was a stream that you guys had a couple weeks back where I made a comment that I'm thinking about accepting a position for a database. It was like a data warehouse cloud admin was
Mhm,
basically what the title was, and it was a contract to hire role,
mhm.
and I didn't know if I wanted to take that risk. I've done contract to hire in the past, um, but I'm 32 years old. I was like, I'm planning on having a family. I own a house. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to take the risk in the economy that we are in, and everything, all the news and everything going on. Do I want to take this risk? And I was going to take it because it ended up being from the job description that it was, and the work that the university hospital was doing, I
Mhm.
aligned with. I love their outreach program. I love that they interact with the community, the local community in Philadelphia. Like I was really into it. I love the building that they were in. I'm
Mhm.
a little bit of a nerd when it comes to like the city architecture. So when I work in a building, I like to learn about that building and see what it was, and
That's cool.
or in the past. And the building that I would be working out of used to be I think what their claim to fame was back a long time ago was like the world's largest department store. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. It was like at the time. Now the building's all data centers. Like that's all it is now. So
Yeah.
it's not even what it used to be anymore. But so I was like, oh, that's cool, and I was really excited about that. I also have a really weird thing for the other perks that you get. I don't know if it's a weird thing, but like I get access to the university hospital cafeteria, which made me excited. It would be like the first company I've worked for that had a cafeteria. I was like, this is pretty cool. I could go
Yeah.
get lunch.
That no,
Like
that's good to keep in
little
mind
perks
too.
like that.
No,
Yeah. And like
absolutely.
the gym and all that stuff. So like I was really excited about it. And
Mhm.
that's the position that I was going to go with. So I had, said no to the law firm. I had said no to the consulting firm. And I had said yes to the university hospital, and I was going to take that job. I was set. I was going to start April, literally yesterday was supposed to be my start date for that position, and I was excited for it.
Yeah. Before
I,
you go on, what
yeah,
advice did we give you? Did we answer your question? Did we talk a little bit more
you guys
about
did, yeah.
what did we say?
I'm gonna mess up his name. Is it
Rishabh? Rishabh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Rishabh said, and I think you kind of mirrored his response, but both of you were like, if you can take the risk.
Yeah.
If you're willing to take the risk, go for it. And it was a great role. Like I was super excited. The job description was amazing. I was going to be architecting and securing and deploying resources. I was going to be using Terraform. I was pumped. Like this was going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
I was going to be
Okay.
working with the data warehouse team and their engineers, monitoring everything that's already in Azure, everything that's in there. They also used GCP too. So they were doing some stuff in there. So I was going to be able
Sick.
to learn a little bit more stuff because right now
Mhm.
I've really been focused on Azure. If
Love
you
it.
can't tell, yeah, if you can't tell, that's what I've been like really focused on. So I was going to go that route, right?
Yeah.
And I was so set on it. I was excited. I was already like picking out what clothes I was going to wear on my first day. My
Like the
wife's like,
first day
"You're
of
a little
school.
kid." Yeah, like I was pumped. And
Love
like
it.
I've been working remote for so long. Like I don't have like nice business casual clothes that you would wear in an office setting. Like I'm
Yeah.
so used to wearing a hoodie and t-shirt to work.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I'm in front of executives or on important calls, I'll change into
Throw on a
a
shirt.
polo
Yeah.
like I have I'm pointing over here. You can't see it, but I have my go-to polo that I just throw on when I have like calls. I mean, everyone does it, right?
Yeah.
Everyone
Of
has that
course.
side. So at that point, like I was really excited. And when I went to tell my firm that I was going to be putting my 2 weeks in,
Yeah.
I have a great relationship with my managers.
That's awesome.
I find them to be very knowledgeable. Their leadership is amazing. I'm very lucky in that aspect. I know not everyone has that, and I love the fact that every manager that I have had at this firm so far, I have been able to take little bits and pieces of what makes them a great leader and instill that in myself. And I hope bring that along my journey further from now on.
Mhm.
And it's great to be able to have that.
Absolutely.
It's great to be able to have that. And when I told them, I wish I could like imitate, but like their mouth fell to the floor, basically.
Yeah.
Like they were like, what? They're like, I can't believe it. Like they weren't shocked because they had seen me getting these certifications. I think it's important to also note that I had also been telling them pretty much since December when I started kind of seeing what was out there that what I wanted to do. Like I
Mhm.
knew the firm couldn't offer me what I wanted to do. So I was open with them and I was like, hey, listen, I'm getting this experience. I'm doing these projects. I'm going down this journey. This is what I want to become. And I know that the firm can't offer me that right now, but maybe you can in the future. Maybe I'll come back. Like,
Mhm.
having that open conversation with your manager, depending on the relationship that you have with them, is super important to be transparent. I mean, no manager likes to see a good candidate or a good employee decide that they want to leave the firm,
Right.
like or leave the company. No manager wants that. And a lot of managers at that point in time would just cut your hands of it, right? And be like, yeah, whatever, go ahead, leave. We don't care about you anymore. We'll replace you. Like a
Mhm.
lot of managers will be like that. But fortunately, the culture that I have and the firm that I currently work for, they were like, okay, well, don't submit anything officially. We're going to make your decision to leave the firm a very hard decision. And I was like, what?
Okay.
Where did this come from? They were like, give me a couple days and we'll get back to you. I was like, okay. So the weekend or that day went by. And later that afternoon, same day that I was trying to put my 2 weeks in, they got back to me and they were like, all right, listen, we know that the destination is the cloud. There's no question about that. We're going to get there. It might not be this year, it might not be next year. However, there are some small projects that we're going to be moving into the cloud with, and
Mhm.
we think that you would be a great fit for that. We know that you have the experience, you've earned this, and we were looking for a cloud engineer to join our cloud services team, which is a newly created team that I wasn't really aware of at
Mhm.
the time. And it wasn't anything officially posted or anything like that. And I had been trolling the job boards for quite some time on at my own firm just to see what else was out
Yeah.
there. And they they were like, well, we have this cloud engineer position. But we know that you don't really have the experience yet because we're looking for someone with like 5 years of experience that could be able to develop and architect and secure and get everything into our cloud environment. And we know that you may not be there yet. However, with that said, we would like to offer you a cloud administrator position. And they're like, it's basically the same responsibilities as the cloud engineer.
Mhm.
It's a little bit less responsibilities in terms of developing and really implementing the solutions. But they gave me a development plan basically that will give me an engineer position in about a year or two in theory. That's their plan. And I have that in writing, but I'm not going to press it. I'm not going to, I'm just happy to get the experience. That's what I want out of this. I'm happy to jump into that journey and get what I want out of this. And I was fortunate enough to be able to stay with the firm. Ultimately, I decided to stay with them, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So after turning down all three of those other cloud admin positions and the system admin position with the firm, I ended up staying with my current firm and I'm transitioning into a Azure cloud administrator next Monday. So this week I've been
So last wrapping up.
yeah wrapping
Yeah.
up. I created a transition plan, which not a lot of people do either.
Yeah.
Which I find that I came into the position. I'm not trying to badmouth anyone, but like I came into my position not having any of the resources from the previous admin
Mhm.
that was here. So I had to pretty much develop everything from the bottom up. Of course, I had documentation and the how-to guides and everything like that, but I had to basically start from zero,
Mhm.
start from scratch, and build up everything. And so my successor, whoever, if they decide to backfill the position or whatever it is, I wanted to be able to set that person up for success and make sure my team, which is a very small team, I wanted to make sure that they had everything that they needed. So I developed a transition plan. I did two knowledge transfer sessions now with the team,
Nice.
going over everything that I've done just to button everything up and make it look really nice. And then I start my new position on Monday. They're still figuring out what access that I need and
Yeah.
everything like that. So I'm really excited. Yeah,
Quite
that's
the
where we are.
journey. Quite the
I know.
journey.
So sorry for talking so
That is
much.
awesome. First of all, I mean, this is just you because you've mentioned so many things that I feel so many people take for granted, and I'll dive into these as we go. But first question is, did they match like salary, or did they get to a number where you're
They
happy?
did, yeah. So I made the mistake of putting because my I have like I said I have a really good relationship with my manager,
Mhm.
and I was like, they're like, what offers do you have? And I was like, I should have backpedaled a little bit, and I was like,
Mhm.
but I was like, oh, they offered me this, and I said the number, of course. And then when they offered me the position, they gave me that number.
Okay.
So which I was happy with. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. That's
Right.
still a huge. It's like a 30% increase,
Mhm.
which is great. I'm really happy. Can't complain about it, and I'm more than happy to have the offer. Plus, on top of that, in my anniversary, my 5-year anniversary with this firm is a year from now, and
Mhm.
I get an extra week of vacation. So it's like there was a lot of extra perks of staying too that I'd be gaining in a year from now. So it was like kind of a no-brainer from
Plus,
like a total compensation
yeah, I think
perspective.
additionally, you're in a place that you're familiar with, so your
Yep,
onboarding or your transfer there is, in my opinion, going to be a little bit smoother than the pressure of meeting new people, having new management, all that kind of stuff. I think
exactly.
that's a lot too, but most importantly, and I say this now because people ask me like, would you leave for another company if they doubled your salary? And I'm like, at this point, it's not just that. Like having a great manager, a great team, a great ecosystem, a great culture around you is worth a lot.
Right.
And the fact that they were able to sort of put this together for you in a day, I think is massive. It's big.
Yeah, they move mountains. They move mountains for sure.
and and I think as employees, that is something that we should take into consideration as well, and appreciate. I always
Right.
say like work is business. It's business both ways, but this sounds like a heck of a deal to me, and I think you made the right move. There's a lot in your story that I hope people will take the time to really listen to and understand. But I just think first of all, your ability is to self-teach yourself, and the commitment and the discipline that you have to yourself is
Right.
just one of the most important things. And I'm very, very happy to see like that Learn to Cloud is sort of encouraging that, because that's all I've ever wanted people to understand is ultimately you can go to school, you can go to boot camps, and you can pay this amount of money, but you're going to have to, throughout your entire career, learn and teach yourself how to learn. The earlier
Right.
to do that, and like the earlier that you kind of lean into the curiosity that you have and teach yourself the stuff, like the better you're going to be off. So, you grab Learn a Cloud, you mentioned from July of last year until December. So
Yeah.
that's roughly 6 months,
Yeah.
which is pretty
Yeah.
cool, which is what I told people. Like you can get through the stuff
Yep, you
in six
can. You
months.
really can. And
Yeah.
and honestly, I know you had recommended in the framework, 2 hours a day of uninterrupted, deep focused study time, and I couldn't give up 2 hours at the time,
Mhm.
and I really only did, I'd say, an hour a day before work, an hour a day,
Cool.
5 days a week. I gave myself the weekends off,
Mhm.
which is
Fair,
super important because
fair.
the way that I learn, I learned early in. That's half the battle is trying to figure out how you learn
Yeah,
as a
100%.
person. You right. And when I went to University Phoenix online, I had to be self motivated to log into the classroom, attend the lectures, go through it, and I had to teach myself basically how to learn how to do all of that. And now with the Learn to Cloud guide, again, I did about 1 hour a day of study time.
Mhm.
If the topic was really interesting, I'd spend a lot more than that. So I'm
Absolutely.
sure there was more time where I spent a lot more study time than just an hour. But that's basically kind of what I did for the last 6 or so months. I was really focus on all the phases, go through everything, the projects, and I did fill in the gaps a lot with things like I learn a lot through video and then
Mhm.
getting hands-on experience.
Yeah.
So I like to see it happen and then jump into my own tenant. I do have I guess I should have mentioned that before. I created my or pay for my own Azure tenant, I
Subscription.
guess,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
own Azure subscription. So I jump into there and try to build out what I can, as long as it doesn't cost an astronomical amount of money,
Yeah,
and
no, I
try to
get
get
it.
in there and play around with things. And John Seville, ACOG Guru, CBT Nuggets is one, another one that I've gone through those. I have paid for those.
Mhm.
I love the material there, but if I could get it for free, I'd rather do
100%.
that, right? Especially if it's
100%.
good material, especially if
Mhm.
it's really good material. And the material that you guys have is amazing. And I am so thankful. My family, I've been able to, like I said, I was the first one from my family to go to college, and really the first one from my family to be, I don't want to say successful. My family's very successful with the businesses that they've had and everything
Mhm.
like that. But I feel a sense of accomplishment, and being able to provide for my family has always been the number one goal.
It's awesome.
Getting the certifications, getting the jobs, getting the money, having that experience, that's great. That's amazing. That's just a perk of this. But ultimately, my goal was to be able to provide for my family. And that's kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's what really fueled the fire
Keeps you going.
underneath all of this. Yeah. Not only does, the creative interest that I had into learning about Azure and into learning about the cloud, but on top of that, being able to provide for my family is always number one for me.
That's awesome. I mean, you gotta have something that keeps you going because, there
Right.
are some really boring topics out there. Like, even when I was writing Learn to Cloud and I was going through the networking stuff, I was like, "This is so boring."
Yeah.
I I
Yeah.
l love network engineers out there. Y'all do very important work. I just personally don't want anything to do with it, though it's very
Nope.
important. But ultimately, you need something that keeps you going, and there's no I honestly feel just like, your support system, your loved ones, that is just a massive privilege and something
Oh,
that we need
it's
to take
huge.
care of, something that we
Yeah.
um need to spend time with. And like I'm a big advocate lately of like getting off social media and using that time to be more
Yep.
with present with loved ones and things like that. So it's awesome that you bring that up. Oh, one last thing I wanted to comment on is, you mentioned you go through the guide July through December, and then December you kind of kick in and you're like, all right, I want to look, I want to poke around, I want to see what's up, I want to see what I can do. Like I'm ready.
Yeah.
You made that decision, and you mentioned having sort of realizing that the company that you're at is growing, but not growing where you want to grow.
Right.
And that is a very self-aware decision to make, and I feel like sometimes that can probably keep people where they're at just because they might
Hmm.
be waiting like, okay, we'll see what they're going to do. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, and they end up sort of living their career through what the company that they're at ends up doing, and not what, them actively making the
Exactly.
decision
Right.
and where they want to go. And that's a really big thing, and a lot of self-awareness, also a lot of risk, right? Because they could end up,
Yes.
it could end up being a move that maybe you take a
Yep.
sidestep. I always am a big believer that any moves that you actively make because you feel like it's like something that you want to do end up working out somehow. You can't
Yeah.
see it in
Exactly.
the moment, but it ends up working somehow. But you mentioned like you applied to 100 plus jobs and nothing,
Yeah.
and then I remember that. I remember that time. What I will say is I think that transition from support to whatever that next step is the most difficult one. Everything after
Yes.
this is going to be significantly more, especially after having cloud, like Azure cloud experience
Yep.
in the title and then in the description, significantly more
Yes.
easier. Like I at this point, if you still have like LinkedIn and you use it actively, like a couple months in, you're probably going to start to get people wanting you to come and interview, like inviting you to come and
Right.
interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the complete flip of what you
Yep.
experience, and that's like what a lot of people don't realize is it is really hard, but it gets significantly simpler as you go. But it's that first one is just so disheartening for a lot of people to go through that first
Yeah.
process of like just rejection, rejection, rejection. But like you mentioned, you were like rejection, then you're like, all right, let me give it some time, and then
Yep.
4 offers, and they end up making a role for you.
Yeah. All in
That
the same, like within 2 weeks of each other, like all in the same, all in the same month. It was crazy.
yeah,
And I'm going to be a little bit of a nerd here, a little bit of a Star Wars nerd, but there's a quote in, I think it's in Phantom of the Menace, that Qui Gon Jinn gives Anakin right before he does the pod racing, and it's your focus determines your reality. And that quote has been with me my entire life, as
love it.
since pretty much since I've seen that movie, and it's true. It's your focus determines your reality,
Yeah.
100%. And I focused on becoming a cloud engineer or becoming any with any cloud, whatever it is, cloud
Mhm.
asterisk, whatever it was going to be,
Yeah.
and that really determined my reality now, where I'm going into, what I'm going to be doing. And I have plans to continue. My wife makes fun of me when I say, oh, maybe I'll stop learning cloud stuff, or maybe I won't go get that next certificate, or maybe I won't do that next project. And she's like, come on. She's like, you have a thirst for knowledge. You're passionate about technology, you're passionate about your job,
Mhm.
which is also a huge thing. If you're not passionate about the work that you're doing,
Mm.
do something else. Do what makes you like, if you can, obviously,
Right.
do what makes you happy. And being self-aware, like you said, making that conscious decision of taking that risk, or at least acknowledging the fact that, am I settling or
That's a
am I
good question.
challenging myself? Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's super
Absolutely.
important to ask yourself all the time, not just when it comes to career, but in your
Everything.
personal everything.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also a difficult question because what can come out of that is potentially very painful, very
Yep.
difficult, take a lot of work for you to find the answer. And perhaps a lot of people just want to not have to deal with that, which I understand, right? And
Right.
and
Yeah,
and
I get it.
and but I think the people that do want to put themselves through it, they're definitely going to have to ask multiple points in their career, in the roles, in what they're learning is this worth it? Is this what I want to do? Is this
Yep.
going to take me where I want to go and all that kind of stuff? Which I know self-awareness is very important. Just to wrap things up, like I could talk to you. You're really easy to talk to. I could talk to you for hours,
Thank
but
you.
it's getting pretty late here. I want to know like what's next for you. Like I know you're transitioning into this cloud admin role. I'm sure you're going to spend a couple of months just onboarding and things like that. But do you have a I personally feel like this company is definitely going to see through that plan that they have for you to get you into that cloud engineering role.
Yeah.
They just sound like they have your back and you have their back as well by working really hard for them. But I don't know. What do you have anything that you really want to learn right now? Like any projects that you're itching to build or something?
So I have a laundry list of
Of
things
course.
that I want to do from a personal perspective and a professional perspective. But like you said, with the company, there's a track record with the firm that I work for. If you've been with the firm for more than 5 years, you're typically a lifer. That's like the thing
Interesting.
that everyone says. And
Mhm.
all of my colleagues that I work with have been with the firm 15 years, 20 years, 10 years. Like I'm probably one of the only people that are in my department that
Mhm.
are new, and I've been with the firm for 4 years almost now. So from a professional standpoint, I'm currently working through cloud security fundamentals.
Mhm.
I do plan on sitting, hopefully, I do plan on sitting the AZ 500 exam by the end of this month.
Wow,
I've been
impressive.
working on that. Yeah, this is probably the hardest exam that I've ever had to study for.
Mhm.
Out of all the, I mean, I've gone through solutions architect. I've gone through Azure administrator, but this security exam it's kicking my butt.
It's a
I'm
whole
not
new
gonna
world.
lie,
It's a whole new
it's a
world.
whole new world,
No, I
and
get
like
it.
I get why the security guys are so sought after, and I get why everything is such a priority with them, and like they don't have time for anything other than work. I get it. I see it now. I understand.
100%.
Yeah, so that's from a professional standpoint. I have a few more certifications, including that one that I want to get through. From a learning point or a learning perspective, I always tell myself when I grow up, I want to be I want to be a DevOps engineer
Mhm.
or a cloud architect. That's what I want to do when I grow up, and that's the pathway that I've kind of outlined for myself. And I
Mhm.
believe I have 1 to 2 more years of learning to do, and then getting some
I can see that.
longer experience in there. And I think that's my end goal. I don't know if that's a 5 year plan
Mhm.
or if it's a plan that I'm going to try to make happen as soon as possible for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I want to do from a project perspective. I recently started diving into 3D printing,
Cool.
which is another crazy side hobby, but more so that led me into 3D printing cases for Raspberry Pis,
Okay.
and not the food, the computer, the mini computer. That's a silly joke, but so I want to host my own password manager, or a self-hosted password manager like
Sweet.
Bitwarden or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So that incorporates Linux and Docker containers and things like
Yeah,
that, which gives
everything's
me
on that.
more. Yeah, exactly. And you can do so much with Raspberry Pis,
Yeah, they're
and
amazing. They're kinda hard
when
to
you can
get
find
though,
them.
aren't they right
Yeah,
now?
so I've been
Yeah.
buying. Yeah, they are. I've been buying banana pies,
Okay. Okay.
so which is similar specked out.
Right.
And so I've been playing around with those. Now that I built out my home network, I have the home network server in the basement, and I can plug in whatever I want just to play around with and try to
Sick.
learn networking, because that's one of those things. I'm always, like I said, I'm always going back to the network fundamental. What's that like? Is that like phase one? I'm always going back to
It
the
is.
networking fundamentals. Yeah, trying to remember what I learned. It doesn't click for me.
Yeah, no, I get
So,
it.
but this is just some other things that I'm working
Totally.
on.
Some great
Yeah,
great ideas. I love you have the vision, you've got it outlined. You like I think having a long-term plan, not letting it sort of ruin your day to day, but having it in
yeah,
the back of your mind so that way when as you're working actively, like, all right, this is going to be completely useful for moving forward. I could see you being
yep.
DevOps cloud architect within that 5 years that you mentioned. Absolutely. I mean,
That's the plan.
especially because that's what you got on your mind, and it seems like anything you set your mind to, you're accomplishing, which is
Thank you.
awesome. Congrats to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Last thing to end it up, I don't know, any advice you got? And you got someone sitting at home help desk wanting to make a transition to cloud. What advice do you give?
Well, again, I get the for me, like the biggest thing is, and I'm gonna go back to this quote. Your focus determines your reality, and that's the truth. I was super content with being in the help desk. I loved what I did. I wasn't, really interested in moving up. And then when I
Mhm,
wanted to take that jump because I had to, I
mhm.
didn't have a choice. I was pushed off the ledge because basically the company was outsourcing the IT department. So I didn't have a choice. I had to get out there and learn. And then that led me into opening opening my mind up to so much more, and that's really when I honed in on that focus. And because of that focus that I've had learning so much,
Mhm.
I've been able to create the reality that I want, and I've been able to become a cloud administrator, which it is an amazing feat. So that would be my advice for anyone. It's hard work. You have to put the time in.
Mhm.
There's amazing resources out there like Learn to Cloud. There's all kinds of things out there. You just got to jump in and do it. You got to take the risk. You got to be self aware, and that's what it is.
Appreciate it. I think that's awesome. I really do feel like the hardest part for people is just believe in yourself. And I think that's what you're trying to say is like figure out what you want and go for it. Do what it takes.
Exactly.
Everything you need is out there.
Yep.
You kind of just have to find the pieces that you need and put them together, which everyone's puzzle is going to look a little different, right? But
Exactly.
thank you for sharing your story. It was so awesome talking to you. We'll,
Yeah.
keep in touch. Let me know how it's going. Would love to check in a couple months or something like that to see what you're up to. Potentially you already got into your engineering position. Who knows? But it would
Right.
be
I mean,
awesome. It would
it's
be awesome.
it's out there. You just got to go grab it. Right.
Exactly. Well, thanks for chatting. We'll chat again soon for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Gwen. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for everything that you do for the community and for us, everyone with Learn to Cloud, everyone on YouTube. It's an amazing platform you guys have, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it and have learned so much from all of you.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you soon.
take
All right.
care.
Bye.
Bye.